Welcome to the 3 Knockdown Rule. Starring Mario Lopez and Steve Kim. Presented by Hustler Casino and UFC Fight Pass.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 Knockdown Rule is in effect, brought to you by UFC Fight Pass. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mario Viva Mexico Lopez. Wow, what a fight this weekend.
Oh, we're going to get to that. Quick shout out, though. Smoking Tim Frazier on the ones and twos, and
Tino on the edits. All right, the bout sheet for today's show. Valdez Navarrete put on a great show in Arizona. We have fight review, fight preview, Ask Mario, and news and notes. But we want to let you know that this fine program is brought to you by the Hustler Casino. It's our favorite local LA casino and home of the most popular poker live stream in the world, a Southern California staple since the year 2000.
Also, shout out to one of our neighbors here in Hollywood, Scalp Micro LA. They offer a unique and innovative hair loss solution for men, and they're known for their pigmentation. It's state-of-the-art hair restoration that replicates exact shape and size of the hair follicles by tattooing tiny particles of pigment into the scalp, giving the illusion of hair. You'll see results as little as one treatment. It is next level, high level stuff. It can restore hairlines, make your hair look thicker, conceal stuff like camouflage burns or any skin conditions you may be dealing with. They use the highest quality. So if you're going bald, looking for a new look this summer, call our friends over at Scalp Micro LA and you mention this ad for a free consult.
If you're getting thin, he'll help fill you in. All right, let's get this show started.
Round one.
Round one, Saturday night from the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona on ESPN for the WBO Junior Lightweight Championship of the World. And it is El Vaquero riding off, but not into the sunset, defeating Oscar Valdez over 12 rounds. Your scores 119-109, 118-110, 116-112. Mario, it's very simple. For Emiliano Navarrete, it sure looks a lot easier beating him from outside the ring than it is to do it from inside the ring.
I make it a point not to check out your Twitter feed until after the fight. And I have one thing to say to you. What the hell fight were you watching?
A good fight.
How did you have it 115, 113?
Good fight.
Are you blind? Were you hammered? You actually had it. If he lost the 12th round, it would have been a draw? Bro. You're out of your mind.
You know, press row was kind of far away.
I thought I was talking here. Couldn't wait to sit down and tell you, you've lost it. I too, like you, thought Valdez would be able to work his way into the inside and maybe work that body and land that big left hook. Boy, were we wrong. Navarrete, again, coming off a performance where he got hurt, he had a long count, but came back and stopped him. Dare I say, he's never looked better. The best I've seen him look in a long time. But one thing it wasn't was close. You, Tessitore, that whole damn broadcast, when they kept saying that fight was close, y'all were wrong. That was a one-sided beating. He destroyed Valdez. The work rate, he landed more effective combinations. Valdez was loading up on a lot of his shots, looking for one shot. I had it 9 rounds to 3, maybe 8 rounds to 4, maybe if you're being generous, no more than that. When you look at them afterwards, Navarrete looked better after the fight, like my man just took a shower and shaved. Valdez looked like he got in a car accident. And they're talking about a rematch. Are you trying to get this kid killed? And he did it, Kim, with one hand. The right hand wasn't even working until after in the middle rounds. I could not believe that. This dude, you have to start talking about him being one of the best fighters in the game right now. 3-division champion now. My guy has a pretty good little list of who's who people he beaten. And he beat a really tough, well-prepared game Valdez, and essentially with one hand. He is so awkward and unorthodox to his benefit. That jab, which he paws out and holds for that distance, and then he looks like he's off balance, and all of a sudden, uppercut from the weirdest angles. It's like almost like he's drunk in there, but from these weird angles, and it's so effective. Uppercut right, body, and the little sneaky, I don't think his defense was given enough props too. He was so elusive, and he was so slick with his defense, and he looked so relaxed in there. He was putting his punches together so smooth, and he was dissecting and beating up poor Valdez, and again, with one hand. He wasn't even able to throw that right hand solid. And Valdez, to his credit, incredibly game, incredibly tough, didn't have the answers to make any adjustments, loaded up on a lot of those shots, and even when he did land, he walked right through him. Walked right through him. So as far as it being competitive, I'm like, what are these people watching?
Okay, so
hold on a second. What are these people watching?
This filibuster will end, I promise.
What was that? I thought we were doing a show here. As soon as I saw his, well, I'm gonna say my piece. You say your little rant, and so because I couldn't wait to sit down with you. And I'm like, I've never seen my friend be so wrong before because I did not have it. You had it going into the 12th. If he lost it, that was gonna be even. That would have been a travesty. For once, I thought the judges got it right, and I thought he did a really, really good job. So I just want to tip my hat to him because he outworked him with one hand. Valdez was tough as hell, and. I just couldn't believe the scorecards and people calling it. There should be a rematch. There's a lot of other fighters I want to see him fight, and I guarantee you Valdez doesn't want any part of that right now.
Okay, can I go? Okay, so here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Maybe this is my version of Chavez Whitaker that you still think is close, and I tell you it's not.
That's an awful comparison. That's an awful because nobody got beat up in that fight. Nobody's eye looked like that. Nobody looked like they went through a grinder.
Chavez lost 10 rounds, and you still say that's close. It's the eye of the beholder,
I
will
argued
admit
with you about Whitaker. I never argued. I argued with you about Taylor, not Whitaker.
Well, that was a bad stoppage too. But here's the thing about Valdez. I know Eddie Reynoso was given a lot of credit for being a great trainer. I'll be honest. I'm actually disappointed. I don't think Oscar's ever gotten better with him. And this is the thing.
I think his defense got a little better.
There are two types of batting practice machines that I remember as a kid. There's a type that had the two things where that shoots the ball out, and there's the other time that has the big arm that just curls all the way around. That's what Oscar Valdez was. The whole night I'm thinking, Oscar, you've got to be able to throw a straight right hand at a certain point and get in distance. The problem that he had with this approach is if you're not going to be able to hit a guy like Navarrete and hurt him with one shot, you better work in volume, which means you better get close and chip away to the body with volume. And Oscar, I don't think, for as hard as he tries to hit, he's a gap hitter. He's not a home run hitter. And once Navarrete took a big shot, I believe, in round 2, and he didn't move him, you're like, uh-oh, this is going to be a problem.
Well, he also was very elusive in there. For all his lack of fundamentals, he did an awesome job of staying disciplined defensively. He kept that right hand, which he hurt, right here. So that left hook, he had it pretty much the whole time. Sometimes when he caught it high, his face was completely clean. But I don't need to even stand up. But when he's like looking like he's drunk and that uppercut's coming like at these weird angles, he's hard to prepare for. How do you prepare for something like that? And it's so effective. And those punches come in bunches. And his work rate accelerated as the fight went on. He ended up throwing over 1,000 punches. That's a dangerous individual in there.
Navarrete has an unbelievable engine, and he is the T-3000. He's the Mexinator. He is an absolute cyborg, and he has an unbelievable ability to just look bad but be good.
But he does manage distance really, really well, and his defense, I believe, is a lot better than given credit for.
I personally believe that Valdez had the worst thing happen to Navarrete. He looked vulnerable his last fight, and now that's the worst thing. Now you face a guy that says, okay, you know what, I may have gotten away with one. Now I have to be more disciplined than I've ever been in my life. And to his credit, he did it. The thing that's interesting about Valdez, he's the one with the Olympic background. He's the one that was higher touted as a pro. But Navarrete is what he is. He's a little bit off balance. He's not graceful. He's not Baryshnikov. But you know what he does? He just chops you up. He puts you into that wood chipper over and over again. And it's unbelievable to me how you could see a million mistakes. But you know what? Sometimes you have to know who you are and be that guy over and over again. And I look at the landscape at 130. O'Shaquie Foster, skilled athletic guy. Joe Cordina, solid all-around fighter. Mario, I think it's time to say it. I don't care how bad he looks. He's good at what he does. I think he's the best 130-pounder in the world.
There's no doubt about that, and you can't even question that. This was as dominant a performance, in my eyes, as Crawford was over Spence, just without the stoppage. And by the way, they could have stopped it because I thought Valdez took a lot of unnecessary punishment in there, and enough can't be said that it was again done for the most part with one arm. And the thing that's crazy about Navarrete too, you don't know what he's thinking, feeling. You heard him. My guy's got the best poker face. He's out there just like Indio, straight, like you said, Terminator style right there. But I thought it was a brilliant performance, and I'm watching this from a while, and I go, he is beating his ass. He is not just beating him boxing, he is kicking his ass and really beating him up. And I was just tripping when I was hearing the announcer saying, I know because they kept cutting away to Barrera and Morales, which is what awesome trilogy. And that was a lot of back and forth action. It was not that. But between those guys and your clown ass scorecard that you had on Twitter, I said,
folks, the next time we talk Whittaker Chavez.
Well, shut up. Whittaker. No one talked Whittaker Chavez.
See how defensive he gets
because no one talked that. Don't be making up shit.
Here's the issue with Navarrete, though. At 130, I think the politics of the business will not allow him to have what I would call the opportunity to unify. I will say this. There was 10,000 people plus at the Desert Diamond. It was a great crowd. In my view, he's now elevated himself. Again, does that make him Barrera or Morales? No, but I think it makes him more of a commercial force, at least within the Mexican market. And I just really think to myself, what's the big fight out there? Now, he's fought twice this year. We're now going into September. I would hope he fits in another fight because activity is when he's good. Because when he really came to prominence was during COVID, when he was literally fighting non-title fights in between. I'd like to see him get back to that because discipline, from what I'm hearing, has been an issue. Now, for this fight, he got a strength and conditioning coach. He got a dietitian.
He looked very well prepared.
And he looked very well prepared. And that version of that guy...
I don't think anybody beats that version of that guy, aside from all the different things we talked about. And you keep saying mistakes. I don't agree with that statement. I don't think he's fundamental. I think he's awkward and unorthodox to his benefit. Yeah. So it works for him, and I think that's a very dangerous individual when he's already probably got the reach advantage and height advantage for most of his peers in that weight class, and then the volume punching with that unorthodox style, and he's got that motor. Dude, that's a bad dude right there.
Yeah,
and you know what? Quick shout out to both of them. They were such gentlemen and class acts leading up to the fight and after the fight. That was really nice to see that sportsmanship right there. And to see the interviews afterwards with Barrera and Morales, it was a great event, and I'm sure it was a lot of fun in person.
As for Oscar Valdez, I saw him after the fight. He was very emotional. This he wanted this. And it's not just a physical tool. I actually worry now psychologically when you want something this bad and you think this is the thing that's going to put me over the top, make me a Hall of Famer. And the type of fight that this was, but I'll go back. People say, should there be a rematch? Personally, I don't think I'd go right back into it, if ever. The other thing is Oscar Valdez, and I've told this to Frank Espinoza, so I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking. You got to learn how to turn your punches over. I mean, you got to be able to learn to hit the knuckle over and layer your punches, but it may have not mattered.
It wouldn't have mattered in this case.
Oscar Valdez has gotten very far with his ability, but unfortunately, he met his match from a physical standpoint and psychologically and mentally. Navarrete, he's a junkyard dog. Oh, he truly is.
I think, first of all, I really like Oscar Valdez as an individual, and again, he's a class act and he's a great representative of the sport. This fight, I believe, and I don't know because I didn't speak to him, but I gotta believe this one even stings more than the Shakur Stevenson fight. He got not only more beat, he got outboxed and beat with the Shakur. He got beat up on this one, and the fact that it was two Mexicans and in front of the legend sitting ringside and the pride at stake, I think this one hurt more.
Because people thought stylistically it was
he was actually a favorite.
Winnable fight.
Yes,
that's the thing. I mean, look, I don't know if anyone beat Stevenson, and we'll bring him up later.
That's an interesting fight, by the way.
We'll talk about that later. Yeah. Emiliano Vargas, I thought, made quite an impression against the plucky, gutty Jorge Alvarado. Mario, and when he knocked this guy out who was getting in his face, talking a lot of trash, very heated for a 4-round fight, right? That's not even on the main stage. But when he scored that stoppage, I looked around the crowd and I was like, uh-oh, they got a star on their hands here.
I've always liked him, and shout out to the Vargas family right there. The cool family, very united, very much together, and all the boys box, of course, but he's the budding star. And this kid's got it all with the pedigree, the ability, the discipline, with the strong father in his corner as in experience. He's a good-looking kid, very marketable. He could be all the things that people thought Ryan Garcia was going to be at the time.
Bold,
later on,
that's a bold statement.
I think he can. You don't agree?
I think he can, and the question then becomes, Is he willing to be the same guy that he is now? See, it's easy to be disciplined
What do you
when
mean by that?
he really knows you. When you're 5-0, it's easy to be disciplined. When you're just an undercard fighter. But when you get to 12, 13-0, and you get moved up the ladder, you get more attention, can you be that same guy?
I think you need to. That gets more dangerous opponents.
No. That's my view, though. Ryan Garcia one time was a very nice, humble kid. Then he signed with Golden Boy. 6 months later, he's a different person. Again, there's a saying, be the same guy.
Well, I think, again, it goes back to the father. And he's got a father who is very much in his life, very disciplined, and has been there. So if anyone can walk him through it and talk him through it, I think it's his dad.
Also, another factor, Top Rank, their matchmakers are going to make sure that the way Fernando Vargas was handled back in 1999 is not going to be Emiliano Vargas in 2023 and beyond. Think about Fernando Vargas. In 1999, he was about 21 years old. In a calendar year, right around 12 to 14 months, I believe he took on Winky Wright, Ike Corte, Trinidad.
Unbelievable.
That's at age 21.
21, bro. That's incredible.
And Fernando Vargas finally admitted years later, he goes, Steve, I should have done it Floyd's way.
Yeah.
I was too reckless. I was my own worst enemy. But
now you don't have to be that dramatic to do it Floyd's way, but there's a medium.
He said, look, he goes, his exact words,
Yeah.
I could have robbed the bank.
Yeah.
Could have robbed the bank. And
Yeah.
this is what I love about what Top Rank is doing. He's coming back September 15th underneath Joet Gonzalez against Venado Lopez. He's actually going to get his first spotlight on the main ESPN broadcast.
Love that.
So there's no doubt about it that he's made an impact. They know what they have. They're not going to make this into a sprint. It is a marathon, but this could be a very fun ride. I know Emiliano pretty well. He's a very grounded young man.
He is. In Top Rank, no one's better, and they're great at matchmaking, bringing along their fighters. So I think they've got a nice little system working over there with fighter, father, manager, promoter. So yeah, the sky's the limit right now if he stays focused and remains disciplined.
Yes, there's no doubt he has that star quality. Okay, we come back on the 3 knockdown rule. We go to fight review, fight preview, news and notes, and ask Mario and final flurries.
Catch the streaming live right on YouTube.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
$1.2 million.
And I'm losing in this fucking game. What the fuck?
There's a 400K flip. If I win by way, you get 10 grand.
For my fans.
What? I read it twice.
Wow. All in a call.
I'm not fucking leaving.
Raise it up.
We are back on the 3 knockdown rule, and we just want to let you know that if you want to get involved with the 3 knockdown rule and sponsor our fine program, we still have some slots available. Please reach out to us by emailing info@boxbid.io. Once again, that's info@boxbid.io. Boxbid.io is an online platform that is launching soon that helps public figures and professionals in the world of boxing get sponsorships. We are proudly working with boxbid.io.
Review preview.
All right, moving on to the fight review Saturday from London, England on the Zone from the O2 Arena. Anthony Joshua scores a 7th round knockout over Robert Helenius. It was rather, I don't want to say boring, but it was very measured. Then bang, it was over. Mario, if you were grading him, Professor Lopez, what's your grade on AJ?
Well, look, it's hard to not give him an A because he got a knockout.
Well, he passed. He passed.
Well, I just didn't pass. Passing is a D. He got a knockout. You got a knockout, and it was a dramatic knockout. So, you got to give him an A. But here's the thing, just in general with Joshua, when he started his career, he was full of confidence. He was able to let his hands go. He'd use his jab, and he would set up that big right hand. But as his career went on, especially after the Ruiz loss, his confidence seemed low. He's trying to just be a boxer from the outside. He's not willing to engage and not get hit, which doesn't really suit his style or benefit him. And he doesn't have the movement and athletic ability of like an Usyk. So it's doing him a disservice fighting at this. I don't know if it's the trainer or if it's just I think he's walking a tightrope. I think about the potential match with a Wilder, and if he just stands here waiting to 1-2 and pot out, Wilder's going to spark him, and it's going to be lights out. What gives Wilder problems is when you're moving, when you're jabbing with those feints like Fury. Even Luis Ortiz moving, keeping those hands busy. You got to be busy to give Wilder. If you're just standing there and you're just trying to like pick apart at him, he's gonna start you with that big 1-2. So unless Joshua is able to turn back the clock or get back to some of his old ways, I think he gets laid out by Wilder.
Mario, I agree with you, and let's go all the way back to the summer of 1986. There was a famous fight that took place at the Madison Square Garden, Puerto Rican battle. Edwin Rosario against a young, undefeated, flashy Hector Macho Camacho. Camacho was the most exciting fighter in the sport. He was fast, he was quick, he was blazing hot, was aggressive. Chapo Rosario landed like 2 big left hooks and a right hand on him and buzzed him twice. And Camacho said afterwards, this macho stuff, not fun. It's not macho time anymore. No. He became the most boring fighter in the world.
How'd that fight with Rosario and Chavez work out?
Oh, well, he grounded him up.
And that was a great fight.
In 1987. Now, I call that being Rosario'd. When the first time a fighter really gets clipped hard, they can go 2 ways. They get better from it, or they lose something.
Like Marco Antonio Barrera got better from it.
Yes, he did. Glenn Johnson, when he buzzed Chad Dawson,
I love Glenn Johnson.
Was never the same.
Yeah, and then he went on to beat Roy Jones.
Okay,
I love that.
You take a look at, and you talk about Andy Ruiz. I think that was the final evidence of it. I go back to Vladimir Klitschko in 2017. When Anthony Joshua got sent to the floor, but he rallied to win, to his credit, I believe that's actually the time he got Rosario'd. And because from that point on, even before he racked up a few more wins against Joseph Parker.
Yeah, because he did rack up some.
It wasn't the same guy. It was not the same guy.
He really was off the precipice after the Ruiz
No, but the
fight.
Ruiz fight was full confirmation.
That was
this
full
is not
confirmation.
the same guy.
So look, can he beat a Wilder? Yes. But I think he's got to turn the page back, a few pages back, and channel a different type of energy and mindset. Because now, mind you, Wilder's fought, 1 round in the last
2 years, basically.
Yeah,
now.
so, we're talking about active fighters and stuff, so he hasn't exactly been active. And if they were to theoretically, hypothetically, I should say, fight next, kind of interesting.
Look, I will give Anthony
Kinda
Joshua credit. He said, I'm going to fight. Hellenius was a late replacement. Yeah. And look, I don't do the whole comparative thing. I know Hellenius ran into a right hand from Wilder, only lasted 1 round. This one went on 7-8 rounds.
7 rounds, yeah.
Here's where has Wilder really struggled? He has no reverse gear. He would not do well driving in New York City if he has to have a reverse. He can only go one way. And I'm with you. He does not have the fluidity or the head movement or the ability to slip and slide like an Usyk. But if he could throw a hard, aggressive jab, in other words, be passively aggressive, where a safety would behind that hard jab, and he puts Wilder on the back foot, where he just cannot push off that back foot and throw that right hand, now he has a shot. But here is the reality. Mario, Wilder could be losing every single second or every single round of that fight up to 9-10 rounds. In 1 split second, that right hand can come in like a laser shot. Remember the Louis Ortiz rematch?
Of course.
He might have lost the first 6 rounds, and I'm there ringside going, I don't think Deontay's won a round. And then 10 seconds to go in the 6th or 7th round, bang, it was like a laser beam. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm like, ooh.
Even Fury, all the times he's fought, I think he dropped him like 4 or 5 times, didn't he?
Right. He was still in danger to a certain degree. Maybe not in the rematch where he got mauled, but the third fight, you're right. As much dominance as there was from Tyson Fury, who's got unbelievable confidence that Joshua does not have, generally been a durable fighter and even bigger.
And just have more athletic.
He still got clipped. He got sent to the canvas twice in the third fight, and he was actually hurt a round or 2 before he ended it. So that's the fine line that Anthony Joshua has to really toe in terms of, I have to be aggressive, I have to back this guy up, but then at times, I actually do have to be passive and run out the clock.
I hope that fight gets made. I still would like to see it, and I hope it's next, because I think it will be a little bit more of an even playing field with the time off of Wilder and Joshua maybe feeling a little bit more confident. I was looking forward, and we talked about it a while back, him fighting Ruiz, but then now, what was the video I saw?
Well, Malik Scott, I sent it to you.
No, yeah, what he said that Ruiz is planning on getting into movies?
Yeah,
or the entertainment business?
Yeah,
I was like...
Yeah, he's Mexican Denzel Washington. I was like, what?
My guy looks like the little dude from Up.
Right, well, maybe he can be cast in that.
I love him.
And look, and Malik Scott also did say, we're hoping to get a fight for Deontay in October. Well, now, wait a minute. You know the way the business is. If Deontay gets a fight in October, is he really going to come right back in January in Saudi Arabia? Is
it inconceivable that Joshua could face him in October? It wasn't like Joshua took any damage.
I get the sense that Malik Scott, who agrees with us about activity, we've actually had private discussions. He wants some rounds.
Yeah,
he wants
prior to facing
Yes,
Joshua.
he does, and I think that's the prudent move. But I'm still trying to ask, why has it taken Deontay Wilder this long to get in the ring from the Helenius fight? You know how long?
I would, if I was hit, I would disagree, and I would try to get in that Joshua fight, because the last thing you need is another fight. Is Joshua getting another fight, building even more confidence and continuing to get a little better? So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. And then who knows? And then you might blow that particular payday too. I would love for that fight to happen by the end of the year.
Also, on this same night from Oxon Hill, Maryland, it was showtime. A lot happened for the vacant IBF bantamweight title. Emiliano Rodriguez dominates Melvin Lopez over 12, and then Gary Antoine Russell scored an early knockout. Then Gabriel Maestre with a second-round knockout over Trayvon Marshall in what was an upset. I want to say one thing about Emiliano Rodriguez. This goes once again, and to bring up the monster Inoue. In my view, Emiliano Rodriguez, who's now a two-time champion at bantamweight, I thought he got robbed against Raymar Caballo, the Filipino, at the War Grounds in Carson. So you can make an argument that outside of Inoue, that he's an undefeated fighter. Mario, think about this. Emiliano Rodriguez is a two-time world champion. He didn't make it 5 minutes against the monster. And this is what I mean by pound for pound, that how you win matters. He's not just eking by guys. Emiliano Rodriguez is a really solid, fundamental fighter. I like him.
That's why I still say it's 1 and 1A.
And it's pretty close.
Anyway, yeah.
Right, and another thing, Gabriel Maestre, he was trained by Ismael Salas. And this guy, to me, when you talk about who are your elite world-class trainers, Mario, in my view, you have to give this little Cuban guy credit, because what does a good trainer do? They don't always win, because that's not possible. What they do is, in my view, one of my precepts is, can you lead a fighter once or twice a year to a victory or a performance that's not expected? Every year, Ismael Salas seems to have a fighter or in that corner where you're like, wow, that was an upset. Salas is in the corner. Because you can win all the time when you have the matchmaking on your side. Maestre was not supposed to beat Trayvon Marshall, and they knocked it. This kid was teetering on the ropes like a teeter-totter. But once again, that man, Ismael Salas, proved his value. Moving on to the Ask Mario portion of the 3 Knockdown Rule, brought to you by UFC Fight Pass. Let's get into this from DH. Guys, if Bob Arum makes the fight between Shakur and Navarrete right now, does it outperform a Shakur versus Haney fight financially? Will the Mexican fan base buy into pay-per-views / gates for Haney Shakur as opposed to Shakur versus Navarrete? Are the Mexican fans on board with him that much, and do they believe in him that much that he could solve the Rubik's Cube of boxing?
I don't know if he'll necessarily solve the Rubik's Cube, as you say, but I think it does better business than Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson. Different cultures, different styles. The build-up would be great. I'd like to see it. Look, I think Shakur pretty much beats anyone from 130 to 135. However, Navarrete, man, dude, he's a difficult out in that volume punching. Like you said, it looks like you might be able to do some things when you're outside watching. Then you get in there, and those punches come from these weird angles. He's longer than you think. He's got a little more pop than you think. Dudes get beat up in there. So I think it'd be interesting. Shakur will know he'd been in a fight.
When Shakur faces a lot of fighters, I get the sense he could slip and avoid punches with his eyes closed, because he understands if you're an orthodox, regular fighter, I know when a jab's coming, I know a right hand and a cleanup hook.
All day.
But with Navarrete, it could be a lead left uppercut from 2 blocks away that you never expect.
Followed by a right, another uppercut, another right, another left hook, another uppercut with right. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
The volume punching at these weird angles, That's hard to prepare
It's
for.
an offbeat rhythm that I don't know how you prepare for it.
Yeah.
But again, here's the issue. Shakur is a master of space and distance, and he shoots punches down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And he also hits you in a way, and I've noticed this. Floyd was great at this. They hit you so quick, you don't even see or feel the punches till they land. They have a way of clamming guys up. I've seen that against both Floyd and Shakur and Terrence Crawford. They're so good at counterpunching. Guys starting all of a sudden to get real shy offensively.
Well, those two guys in particular, because they're so fast. I would still like to see it.
Yes,
I still think it's a fun fight.
Because fights make fights and stuff happens. Here's
I'd still like to. My point is, I'd still like to see it over Devin Haney. I think it's a more fun. I think it's a fun
right
fight.
because Devin Haney and Shakur, it's too much of the same thing.
That's what I'm saying.
You want a little bit of peanut butter and
That's what I'm
jelly.
saying, yeah.
Here's one from Hands of Stone. Whose win over Oscar Valdez, in your opinion, was more impressive, Emiliano Navarrete or Shakur Stevenson's?
Well, Shakur painted a beautiful picture and pitched a shutout in a very effective fight in what was supposed to be close and competitive. Navarrete bullied and beat up a fighter where he was the underdog, and to me, they're both impressive, but to me, that seemed to be even. I walked away more impressed just because he wasn't supposed to do it, and in the manner in which he did it. Dude looked like he just was put through a grinder, and I was like, wow, when I walked away.
Yeah, I remember when we were doing the show previewing that fight last year, I literally could not find anyone that was picking Oscar Valdez against Shakur Stevenson. So as Chris Rock would say, you did what you're supposed to, but again, He did it impressively. He swam without getting wet. Well, this time Valdez swam with a pack of piranhas that just kept biting and sniping at him the whole time. And I think even Oscar Valdez would say, okay, if you had to do it over again, would you rather go through the Stevenson fight or the ordeal with Navarrete? You know what? I'd rather go, even though Stevenson scored a knockdown, I guarantee you, he did not need as much Advil as he did this past weekend.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Albert Alvarez. Hey, Mario, any idea when La Guerra Civil will air? Ask your homegirl, Eva Longoria, for us. Huh. Okay, so I remember the ads for this, and the Zone still has like a little trailer. They were supposed to do a feature-length documentary on the first fight between Julio Cesar Chavez and Oscar De La Hoya. And in fact, Mario, before your production with Mark Wahlberg came out on HBO, I was on the Zone and I said, okay, I want to see that one. You have any idea? It's not there. Did it fly into Bolivian? The Bermuda Triangle?
I wasn't producing that one. I even sat down because he was a friend of mine, so I sat down with an interview for that. We covered it a lot, so I don't know is the answer. But we covered a lot of that fight, ironically, in the Oscar doc.
Right.
Too. And I thought we did a pretty good job kind of touching on that. That particular project, I believe, was just kind of focusing on the cultural differences at the time. But obviously ours was just a large, grander scheme of things. But I'm pretty excited about some upcoming docs we got coming up. I can't talk about it at the moment, but one will serve well for this show, so stay tuned.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Clay Stevenson, longtime fan of ours. Hey, Mario, is there any chance of a sequel to the Golden Boy documentary? Now, Mario, didn't Oscar say in some interview, yeah, we're coming out with other parts. There's going to be a sequel. Is that news to you?
Perhaps not a sequel, but perhaps a follow-up reality-type show. So stay tuned.
Oh,
we'll see.
what?
We'll see. Stay tuned.
Wow, okay. Here's one from Johnny Boy. Short and simple. Who do you want Navarrete in with next, and who do you think it will ultimately be? Orale.
I mean, I'd like to see him unify, but for big money fights, I mean, the Shakur fight's just a fun fight. You know what? Even the Tank fight is a fun fight.
You don't think Tank's too big?
He's 135.
Yeah, but I'm just talking his power. I mean, Tank hits like a welterweight.
No, I know he does. But I think he's a big kid, Navarrete. And I know he's
taller and lankier.
He's
There's
taller
no doubt.
and lankier. But he's one of those, like, I don't want to say Tommy Hearns-esque, but he's got a little more pop than you think. You know what I mean? And maybe if he gets a little more legs into him, I just think it's interesting. Only because Tank doesn't throw a lot of punches and Navarrete does.
He gets outworked.
That's what I'm saying.
Ooh.
He gets out. Remember, in the name of smaller guy, even, what's his name? Oh, my God. Luis Santa Cruz.
Yes.
Santa Cruz. He was doing a good job against him. Navarrete, lot more active, lot bigger, lot stronger. I just think those are fun fights. I don't know if he wins them, but I love those are fun fights. I think he has a better chance against Tank than he does Shakur.
What do you think about him at 135 or some sort of catch weight between 35 and 30? Vasyl Lomachenko.
And who?
Navarrete.
That one doesn't excite me as much.
It doesn't. That's
no,
surprising.
I like the Tank or Shakur one. Loma, I think, should go. Loma, I think
because he's not getting the Haney rematch. That much is clear. That's not happening.
You know what? It's funny that you said, and I wanted to bring this up earlier. When we saw Navarrete prior to this fight, he looked a little vulnerable. Maybe he was getting a little shop worn or just a lot of tread on those tires, and then came back and had like what I think is the best performance. If Haney, since you mentioned him, decides to fight Regis Prograis, I know that's not official yet, and hopefully we saw a Prograis who was a little, not necessarily that he looked shop worn, but maybe off his game a little bit. And maybe that's why Haney wants to choose to fight him over Shakur. I think we can have a similar thing where Prograis is just amped, focused.
Yeah.
If it's not, you know what I mean? It could be the same. That's a fight I'd like to see too. If I could put my promoter hat on, I'd like to see Haney, Prograis, and then Navarrete with either Shakur or Tank. I think it'd just be fun.
And keep this in mind, Navarrete and Shakur are both represented by Top Rank. And so
that's fun, isn't it?
Again, the politics plays a large part in what we see. And I get the sense that the PBC, especially with Tank coming off his summer vacation, and I don't mean from Camp Snoopy.
Hey, why was this guy yelling at you on Twitter? Everybody scolds you.
Oh,
Kim.
you mean Leonard Ellerby?
Yeah, why was he yelling at you?
I don't get this about old Lenny. I like Lenny, but Lenny, if you think
he don't like you too much.
Well, no, I mean, I don't really care, but here's the thing that gets me. He thinks it's out of line for me to ask Bob Arum, who promotes Shakur Stevenson, about a Tank Davis fight when they're in the same weight class.
Yeah, like that's inappropriate.
Like, I'm not asking, hey, Bob, do you think Tyson Fury could fight Tank Davis? Now, that I'd be like, you know what, Steve, that's the worst question you've ever asked, and you've asked a lot of bad questions. But that is a fight that a lot of people are interested in, and I think Lenny has to understand.
And what was he upset about? That's a legitimate question. I don't
That's
understand.
the problem. Yeah, that I don't. Next time I'm gonna send a fax. I still use a fax to Lenny.
Wow.
I'm gonna say, Lenny, these are the questions I'm gonna ask Bob Arum. I just want to get your approval. Right. Anyway, so I'm just thinking again. I don't understand. Like, how dare I even propose a fight between two lightweights? The nerve! Wow. And in the
really out of line, Steve.
In the immortal words of Greta Thunberg, how dare I? Anyway, here's one from Fanny Merchant. Ask that Norteño and Sereno Colon kingpin Mario Lopez. By the way, included the pictures. It's really nice.
Hey, I like that guy.
Yeah. Can he relate to Anthony Joshua getting so much hate because he's handsome and women love him? And number two,
yes.
Does he like that AJ wants more activity as opposed to super fights?
I like that AJ wants more activity. I don't know if it's necessarily as opposed to super fights, but maybe in addition, it would help him prepare more, maybe get a little bit of that mojo back. So I hope that's the case. Listen, we just talked. In a perfect world, I'd love to see Deontay and AJ fight in October or at the end of the year. I think that's a great fight.
In my view, Anthony Joshua does suffer a little bit from speaking of the golden boy, the De La Hoya syndrome. He's a good-looking guy, panties drop. I mean, this is for the ladies. I mean, it is like an Usher concert when he fights, and he got a lot early. This is where I think Anthony loses a lot of fans, or at least the hardcore fans. He makes a lot of excuses, and I didn't like the way he threw Robert Garcia under the bus. You're the one who brought Robert Garcia in. You didn't go to Riverside. You did the cheap way. And again, Robert agreed to this, so he has to take some of the blame. Robert should have said, yeah, I have a great gym called the RGBA, Real Boxing. You come over here. But again, this is the money game. People want to get paid. But then after that fight, and by the way, the Usyk rematch going into the 10th, I thought was a damn close fight. I actually thought he put together an admirable effort with Robert in the corner.
Yeah,
but
I
then
agree.
later on, he says, well, Robert didn't teach me much. Well, wait a minute.
Man.
Maybe you're just a bad student. Maybe you didn't want it. And that's where you lose people.
Yeah.
And do I think there's a jealousy because I don't know what it is. It's funny about Eddie Hearn. In the UK/Britain, you either love Eddie Hearn or Matchroom or you're staunchly against him. It's the funniest thing. Like sometimes I'll say Matchroom and Eddie Hearn did a hell of a job here. It's 50, and it creates like a British Civil War. But then also at the same time, if you criticize Eddie Hearn, some of the Matchroomites come out and defend this guy like he's a member of the family. And I believe that is part of the dynamic as it relates to Eddie Hearn. But Anthony Joshua, I'll say this. If he beats Deontay Wilder, all will be forgiven. He'll be the most popular heavyweight again in Britain since Frank Bruno. Everyone loves a winner, don't they?
Even over Fury, you think? Depending how he beats him.
Well, here's the issue with Fury. He has his share
Is he still
of
scheduled?
detractors.
Is he still? Maybe
Doesn't
because
he?
I don't know. Maybe because of the layoff. I don't think so. He's put in wars, man. That guy's got equity in there, and he's beaten up Deontay Wilder.
You don't
beaten him up. That's just not just knocked him out. Beat him up too, and he's fought him 3 times. So he gave us a lot of great moments. Look, am I disappointed he didn't face Usyk right away? Yes. He's obviously going to have a big money grab fight with Ngannou,
the escapade.
and I'm not opposed to that if he would continue with his other obligations like fighting Usyk. I wouldn't have, but now that in lieu of, it's kind of like
And you're
one of
right.
these.
And look, there's probably fans that are staunchly for Fury, staunchly for AJ, so that creates a rivalry. By the way, are they ever going to fight? I don't get this up. Joshua and Fury are 2 of the best
Who
British.
does Joshua do better against in your eyes? Fury or Wilder?
He'd be the significant underdog in both for different reasons. The boxing IQ of Fury and just the presence that he brings, and he's smart enough, I just think he riddles Anthony Joshua. Now, with Deontay Wilder, I don't know about his legs. What if he lands that exact same right hand on Hellenius that he does on Deontay Wilder?
That was a hard shot.
That was a good
He's
shot.
still a big, strong
Right.
guy.
He still looks the part in
Yes.
flashes. You're like, ooh. But you're right. I think he's now overly cautious to a point, whereas that old saying, you're pissing away vitamins.
But if he gets another fight under his belt where he has a performance and a knockout like that, maybe the confidence is coming back a little bit. So we'll see. That's why it's dangerous, I think, for Wilder's team to wait too long. Because if he gets another one, then
You never know.
You never know. That's
Right,
what I'm saying.
and with Deontay Wilder, every month that goes on where there's no fight really planned, there's a phrase called dying on the vine. Look, unless you're a special talent like Muhammad Ali, who took 3 years off when he was in exile. By the way, Muhammad Ali was younger, but if you look at him when he came back with the Jerry Quarry fight, you could tell it was not the same. He was not that same spectacular athlete. He had to find other ways to win. Look, and I tell this to young fighters, you can never reverse youth or the march of time. It's like when you turn over that hourglass, no matter what you do, whether you're fighting or not, or resting or living a lifestyle, that sand goes down to the bottom. You can't ever retrieve that.
And even as you get older, and I can just tell just from when I'm still sparring and even in jiu-jitsu, there's an explosiveness with young guys that your body thinks it can act like that, and it just can't.
Right.
And you see it, and even defensively, you're like, oh, damn. Youth is wasted on the young, as they say.
Right. Mario, I thought Nonito Donaire went through that a couple weeks ago. I'm watching this fight. He's on the Crawford undercard. He fought a guy that's really tough that I think even 3 years ago he gets out of there in 5 rounds. But on that particular night, and we haven't talked to him, maybe we'll bring him on the show, but there seemed to be a dynamic where he saw punches coming, couldn't get out of the way. He saw punches there, he couldn't snap and pull the trigger.
Yeah.
It happens.
Even more so with the lighter weight classes,
Right.
Because they're so twitchy and it's so reliant on reflexes. You can get away with a little bit more being a big guy, a la George Foreman when they're older and stuff.
Yeah.
But it is a huge factor.
Final flurries.
Now we go on to the final flurries program of our show. And Mario, a philosophical question about life. You know, it all ends the same way. We all have the same ending. Basically, we all end up in the same place. I don't know how the race is really raced up until the finish line. But I have a question. Would you rather be buried or cremated when it's all over?
Are you asking me this because I'm about to turn 50?
That's just halftime for me.
I hate even saying that out loud. A friend of mine got into an argument with his son over this same topic because it's really about your kids. They're the ones that are going to go visit you, and
Or not.
he's or not. But he said, "I want to be cremated." I go, "Oh, you're Catholic. What's the deal?" And then he goes, "My kid said the same thing. He wants to. Where am I going to take the grandkids to go visit them?" And he goes, "Well, you can spread the ashes." And then I'm like,
So
wow,
just
I don't know how to
visit the Pacific Ocean?
said no, not spread the ashes that way.
Hey,
like in other
Grandpa's
words,
out there somewhere
No,
with
in other
those
words, no.
waves.
Give some ashes in one urn to one kid.
I've had that.
Some other ashes
My
in
dad
other
did
urn.
that.
Your dad did the cremation thing.
Yes.
Did you keep the ashes?
Yes, it's in my office.
Did you cremate him because that's what he wanted, or that's what you chose?
That's what he wanted.
That's what he wanted.
Yes.
So my wife and I got into it the other day because I don't know, maybe because I'm old school and I grew up and I thought I wanted the tomb. I'm sorry, the headstone and all that. She's like, no, I want to be cremated, dude. She's got our dog's ashes at the house.
Really?
Yes. I go, we're gonna have a bunch of ashes at the end with all the dogs and the people right here. I said it's gonna look crazy. She goes, I want our kids to take us with us. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, you start getting older, you start thinking about it.
Can you do a half and half?
I don't
bury the upper body. Burn the ashes of the lower.
We're going to be buried together and all that.
These are Mario's legs.
I'm actually, you know what? I'm coming around. I don't know. I think I used to always want to say, I guess I'm open now. Do you know what you want? Do you want to be cremated or what do you want?
If I had a large family, I would say burial, but again, I don't. So as of right now, I would say, look, I don't want to take up any space on this earth. Spread my ashes over the top of...
Oh, you want them spread. You don't want anybody to keep them.
Spread over... Well, no, whoever wants part of my ashes, we'll give you a little thimble. But the other part is wherever the Miami Hurricanes are playing their home games, fly over and put it on the 50-yard line. So, because this way, I'll always be...
Really? Not in the ring? Not in a ring over there?
Oh, some of them in a ring, too. We have scoops here, scoops there,
I've been to Florida one time, all of a sudden you're...
Not one time, but anyway. That's a tough one, though, now that I think about it.
It's a tough one. I think it's less expensive, though, if you do the cremation deal, right?
That's the other thing.
Is it significantly?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, because it gets pricey to get buried and stuff, huh?
When my dad...
It's a morbid show right here.
Oh, boy, we really brought down the mood of this one.
Yeah, funerals and stuff are expensive. Cremation is cheaper. However, you can also buy an urn and then buy a spot to put that urn so that people can visit that.
Yeah. I remember when my grandmother, too, they were telling my dad, I was with him, like, you can get this casket for this much, then they got caskets, dude, like with the bells and whistles. I'm like, she's not going to be partying in there.
The lowriders.
Dude, it's like with the spinners and shit. I was like, it's crazy.
And they start at like $9,000.
Yeah, it's expensive to die. It's expensive to die.
So that's a tough one.
Okay, it's something to think about.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah. You're 100% dying before me, so I think I will...
All right.
I will see. I will respect your wishes.
Okay.
Whatever you want. Sounds good. I got
put it right at Hard Rock Stadium. Steve Kim just being all spread out there.
I'm not going to Miami.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it in the no-go ring. I'm not going to Miami.
Hey, Mario, did it turn out that the movie with Blindside was just one big farce? What's going on there with Michael Oher? He's not happy.
You know what?
Man,
this is so disheartening to see because this kid...
Well, young man. He's 37 now.
No. He was a kid when he was adopted. He was...
You mean not adopted?
Well, whatever. He was taken in... He was taken in when he was young, poor, homeless. He was given a home, warm meals, sent to a good school, went to college, ended up paving the way for him to be in the NFL. And I don't know why. Am I wrong to think like he just comes across really ungrateful right now? And it's sad. It's kind of like when it made me feel bad, like when Colin Kaepernick was talking about his parents who adopted him because his dad bounced. And then he kind of turned on them he was saying some not so nice things. And I feel bad for these adoptive parents. Like, man, you open your home to these kids. You just want a little gratitude. Am I wrong?
What's that phrase? No good deed goes unpunished.
It made me sad when I heard the story.
It did. Well, look, I want to...
Sandra Bullock won an Oscar for that performance.
Right, does she have to give it back?
That's what I'm saying.
Does Michael Oher want that trophy?
That's exactly
it. Is it all good?
Right.
And the other thing is that I believe he claimed that the family made $300 million. I don't think the movie made $300 million.
Oh, come on. The movie, please. The movie didn't, no.
I'd like to get both sides of the story.
So it's about the movie. It's about the movie because, wow.
But again, you're right. Let's say they didn't do the full adoption, but as you stated, we provided a roof, structure, family. You had good Christmases, 3 square meals a day. We helped you get around.
That's priceless.
That doesn't... You're telling me just a paper that says you're adopted ruins all of that?
Man, that's a tough one. I just think about his poor mom. My mom must have broke her heart hearing that.
It did. And were parts of that movie embellished? Of course. It's Hollywood.
Of course.
But I have a hard time believing that any family just looks at a kid at age 15 and go, honey, that kid's 6'6". You know what they're paying left tackles in the NFL? I mean, we put them on a good strength and conditioning program. We can go to SEC school, and then we can go out and shake Roger Good. I'm just thinking to myself, come on.
Yeah, we can cast Sandra Bullock as playing me. You know what I mean? I don't think they have that force.
Yeah, so look, I'd like to get both sides of the story, but I do find it sad.
Yeah,
regardless.
I agree.
You know what I also found sad and also a little bit uplifting because I think he's going to be okay. I watched the Johnny Manziel documentary, Netflix, and it's part of the series, the Untold series, and they're doing our friend Victor Conte this week. They did one on Jake Paul a couple weeks ago, and they're going to do one on the Florida Gators when they had all sorts of killers and Tim Tebow.
Which ones have you seen?
I've seen I'm not going to watch the Jake Paul one till later. I did watch.
Wait, why aren't you watching it till later?
I don't know.
What, are you saving it for a special night?
You know why? Because with Jake Paul, there's overexposure. I feel as though I know the story. But I don't mind him. I've met him. He's a nice young man.
I can get along with him fine.
Well, obviously, Johnny Manziel, college football, I'm going to watch. Victor Conte one, I'm definitely going to watch.
Absolutely.
I'm going to try to get him on the show.
So tell me about the Johnny Manziel.
It's a story of
it's
a
kid. It's a one-parter, right?
One-parter about an hour 15. It's amazing how beating Alabama one game, because up until that game, he was just a good young player.
I saw that game,
He
actually,
beats Bama on this big upset, and it changed college football because everyone said, we have to run that offense. We have to go hurry up, no huddle, and we got to find ourselves a Manziel, run around. But the story, I don't want to ruin it for you because you should actually watch it. But but
we know the story.
No, but the way they skirted the drug testing is one of the funniest stories.
But bottom line, did he just not have the talent for the next level?
Didn't have the game. No,
that's
First
what I'm
of
saying.
He's 5'10".
Who is a better? I was going to say athlete, but who's a better quarterback, Johnny Manziel or Baker Mayfield?
Baker still made a career out of it.
Yeah, he lasted longer, right?
But I will say this about Manziel. He gave a speech at the beginning about how, and he was being honored by the A&M alumni, dressed real nicely, and he was very contrite about, hey, guys, thanks for sticking with me. I know I've done, and even at the end, he's a likable guy. But the stuff that he went through, like, you'll laugh because you could see how he got caught up, but I think social media actually hurt him. And I found it to be an engaging story. I like Johnny Manziel. He's the type of guy that if he did like a podcast talking football and life, I'd actually listen to it. He's an intelligent young man. It turned out that story about his family being oil tycoons and he's rich and he didn't need money. Big fraud.
Big fraud?
It was a big fraud.
Really?
Yeah.
What's he up to now?
He's just kind of living his life. I don't know what he's doing, to be honest. I mean, they never really got into that.
Okay.
But he seems to be living in a big house in Arizona. So he seems to be doing...
All right, good for him.
Okay. By the way, I heard you met Rob Lowe. What's going on with him?
I didn't just meet him. I've known Rob Lowe for years now. Dude, think about it. Rob Lowe. We're 80s kids. He's been a star since the 80s for a long time. And he's done a really good job of sort of reinventing himself. And we both talked about, I was on his podcast. So he's been on my show a bunch. So he called me and asked me to be on his podcast. So we sat down and talked for like an hour and a half or whatever. And I love hearing his stories because anybody you name, he's got, because he's been around since the 80s out here from Dayton, Ohio. He was calling me, big baseball guy too, calling me like, because I've seen him a lot of games, and he'll call Dave Roberts and say, this guy's tipping his hand, this, and I'm like, well, really? Dave's answering the phone call. And he goes, he's answering the call. I said, all right, Rob. But he was like this teen heartthrob and did also a lot of great movies back in the 80s, right? And then got in a little bit of trouble, but then ended up really becoming like a really good actor and doing a bunch of different
serious roles
and comedic roles, and then hosting game shows, and now he's doing the podcast. He's got a show with his son. He's on that 1911 show, I forget.
Yes.
He's doing but I just always respect anybody that's been able to hang out in an industry for decades on end. He's been in 4 or 5 decades now. No, 4 decades. 4 decades.
And he's the Lakers GM. Oh, that's Rob Pelinka. Sorry.
Rob Pelinka. But you know what I mean? But if you think about it, not too many people that we grew up with, because I know you're a big 80s guy and guy of yesteryear, who's still kind of hanging out and is as relevant. And just stories like because he lived next to Charlie Sheen and that whole family, like who from that era is really still as relevant in his shows.
From the 80s.
You know what I'm saying? Other than like Tom Cruise, of course, who's Tom Cruise, who we worked with on The Outsiders and stuff. But Rob Lowe's done a nice job of staying relevant and being in so many different things. And it was just a really pleasant conversation, and that fool still looks looking as handsome as ever. Still looks great.
What's his iconic role, you think? What's the Mount Rushmore of
That's
stuff?
just it, because I was saying, what do people come up to you and mention the most, right? And they said, it depends on the generation, Mario.
Yeah.
They'll mention St. Elmo's Fire, or
that's the one I
or
remember.
Outsiders, and then you'll go the West Wing, and then he was even in in Austin Powers, right? He was what's his name, son? I can't remember his name. From Heart to Heart, you know what I'm talking about. And so he's just done he's one of those guys that just does so many different things. Dude, one time I was in Santa Barbara and I was hanging out with Marcus Allen. And Marcus Allen lived there. And he goes, let's go to Rob's house real quick. And I thought he meant, I was like, all right, just a buddy he played with or something. He went around the block. It was Rob Lowe's house. Dude, this house looked like a house like Jeff Bezos should live in. I'm all, damn, Rob Lowe invested well, or he's done really well. So he's done really well. And he's quietly just been like having this really busy, jam-packed career. So I just want to tip of the hat to like a guy who's been around since the 80s, man.
St. Elmo's Fire. That came out in what, 85 or 86?
Great soundtrack too.
Yeah, great theme song.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good to work
exactly. You
out,
remember
too.
that?
I do.
Yeah,
Good song.
exactly.
All right, well, that's it for this week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule. On behalf of Smoke and Tim Frazier, Tino, and Mario Lopez, this is Steve Kim saying, till the next round, goodbye, everybody.